Happy holidays, gang. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, GamingGang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. This is live stream 1263. So I guess threes are wild tonight. If you are not familiar with this show, let me point out it's super casual around here. We just hang out, having fun, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then we will normally take a first look at a role-playing game release. Now, every once in a while, I'll crack open a board game. We'll do an unboxing of that. And on occasion, I might actually tackle a topic related to our hobby or just do an AMA and just chew the fat with chat. But of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Now, of course, tonight, we are going to dive on in. We're going to take a first look at The Darkest Dream for 5e Dungeons & Dragons from Gooey Cube. And this is the smallest of the Gooey Cube boxes I received at Gamehole Con. This still weighs probably about 8 pounds. So, no joke. I'm very excited to take a peek at this. We've had some fun with the Gooey Cube releases, and this time it is the first chapter, or I should say first part, of an ongoing campaign from Gooey Cube, and it's for levels 1 and up. I know some of the other box sets we've taken a peek at, the adventures have been for mid or a little bit higher levels. So yes, tonight we're going to start on the ground floor with beginning adventures. So looking forward to that. Now, I should mention, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. Now, you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. But if you check off that box and you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my absolute best to respond. First out the gate tonight is Keithulu. Kathy Evans is with us, as is Semper Buffo and Mike. And very possibly the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D, one of our chat moderators, may be lurking in the shadows. As much as you can lurk when you carry a glittery banhammer. Hey, I said it correctly tonight. Glittery banhammer. Not the, what the hell was it? Bitterly? I was like, hey, Jeff, instead of saying 3 words, let's just combine it all into 1 word. People will know what you mean. Yeah, thanks a lot, brain. Captain Infinity, Time Travel Police, and Reading Aid are joining us. And yes, Sarah D is minding the store for us tonight as far as chat moderation. Keith Lewis says, by the time you see that glittery banhammer sparkle, it's too late for you. For you. I would say that is a reference I don't expect anybody to catch on to. W Forges popping on in. Welcome back. Let's dive right on into the news, because now available in print and PDF for Dolmenwood comes The Fungus That Came to Blackswell. Here's the latest from Necrotic Gnome and Exalted Funeral. Fungal apocalypse has ravaged the isolated village of Blackswell, blanketing the streets in blanched mycelia, waving eerily to an unheard hymn. The village is to be razed to the ground, but the bold may be able to get in and out before the troops arrive. Can any living souls be saved, and can the fungal infestation be reversed? The fungus that came to Blackswell is an adventure of fungal horror designed for characters levels 2 and 3, presented in a quick reference format. The adventure is easy to run with minimal prep. This 52-page A5-sized hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $15. If you want to grab just the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $7. Of course, if you want to grab that hardcover here in North America, you would go to Exalted Funeral. If you're in Europe, you will visit Necrotic Gnome. Kind of strange that they went A5 on this. Although, I think this may have originally been an OSE adventure that's now been converted a little bit over to Dolmenwood. I could be wrong. Could be absolutely wrong. But I know they did that with Winter's Daughter. So Winter's Daughter was an OSE adventure. In fact, if I remember right, I think it was the first reference to Dolmenwood that came out from Necrotic Gnome. And now that is a Dolmenwood adventure. So that is a possibility. Maybe that's why they kept it A5 sized, because Old School Essential are A5 sized books. I don't know. It's a possibility. Keith Lewis says, or as Stephen Glicker calls it, Dolemwood. You know what? I might have actually called it that when I did my interview with Gavin Norman a few years back. Dolmenwood was kind of an idea that he had. We were actually doing the interview about Old School Essentials. And yeah, I mispronounced it too. But ever since then, in fact, even later in the interview, I made sure to properly pronounce it. Because, that's kind of an insult. You'd sit there and, the creator is there doing an interview with you, and you just keep mispronouncing their product or their idea. That wouldn't be very nice. Steven from Roll for Combat's popping on in. Oh, look at that. His ears were burning. And he's like, yo, what? Huh? Who? What? So he's come to challenge Keith Ulu to a duel. Very cool. I'm hoping I get a chance to take a peek at this. There is a new wave of goodies over at Exalted Funeral. This is one of them. Arriving in retail in February comes the eagerly anticipated The Role-Playing Game of the Planet of the Apes from Magnetic Press Play. Here's the lowdown. The global sensation of the Planet of the Apes comes to tabletop in this official role-playing game. The role-playing game of the Planet of the Apes will challenge every idea you have ever had about a role-playing game. That is one lofty claim. You'll be thrust onto a planet where humans are the lowest order of living things and the superior beings are apes. It's the evolutionary process, but in reverse. Become an intellectual chimpanzee who seeks to better ape kind through science and exploration. Choose an orangutan states ape whose weapons are philosophical debate, political savvy, and the power of the sacred scrolls themselves. Perhaps a guerrilla soldier is more your style. Honor-bound to protect Ape City and lead aggressive expansions into new territories. What else, if not an ape? Be a time-lost astronaut struggling to grasp a world gone insane. Become a mute tribal human forced to scavenge for resources as you are hunted by murderous gorillas on horseback. The rules even allow you to play mutant survivors who use the power of their minds to turn their enemies against each other. Built on the official magnetic variant, D6MV of the classic D6 system role-playing game rules created by West End Games. The role-playing game of the Planet of the Apes is easy to learn, yet full of challenges to master. Oh man, they went there. They went there with it. They couldn't stay away from that. Easy to learn, difficult to master, or close enough, right? With settings and lore written by sci-fi novelist Andrew E.C. Gaska, this core rulebook contains all you need to roleplay in this upside-down world where apes evolved from humans. The book includes detailed histories and lore from Planet of the Apes, 24 character classes to choose from, optional stun and encumbrance rules. SRP defenses create fast-paced combat. Extraordinary abilities give your player characters an edge. Quirks and expectations help define character motivations. And there's statistic for the mutated monstrosities that lurk in the Forbidden Zone. Plus, a host of new gear and weaponry will help turn this upside-down world right. This is actually compatible with all Magnetic Press Play's West End Games D6 products. The 308-page hardcover is slated to arrive February 3rd. It is going to carry an MSRP of $49.99. And yes, Keithulu beat me to the punch. I was gonna do damn you all to hell. You did it. You finally did it. Oh well, I guess I'll just be second to the party as far as that goes. Let's see. We've got Burrell with us in chat. Welcome. And Wallona's Cave has arrived. That's why I thought there were two new folk arriving in chat. Says they give away the spoiler right there in the art. Yes. In fact, I think that's early on. I think that's like page 10 of the book. I got to say, you may recall I did a first look at it was the primer. It wasn't the quick start. I want to say it's the primer because they're different. I think the primer is a little bit longer than the quick start. And I was impressed. I honestly had my fingers crossed that Magnetic Press Play remembers that I did that first look. I think I'm the only person who shared a video. Well, maybe not now, but had shared a video of sharing any like actual details about the role-playing game outside of, the company itself. But yes, I would certainly love to check this out. Taco Loco 787 is with us. Hey, once again, do want to point out, if you're still suffering from that goofy name change that YouTube shackled you with, you can change your name back or to whatever you want it to be. All you need to do is go into your YouTube settings and you will see that you've got a YouTube name that you can change, and you can change it anytime you want. So if you feel like being one nickname one day, go ahead. There you go. All right. So yes, W Ford says it's a madhouse. A madhouse. Keithul asks, can you engage in guerrilla warfare? Bumps. I'm looking forward to this. Really am. Like I said, fingers crossed we get to take a peek at it. All right. Moving right along. You might remember last night I mentioned the first of a trio of bundles featuring Catalyst Game Labs' Shadowrun 5th edition. I've got the deets on the second deal over at Bundle of Holding. Look sharp, chummer. This new Shadowrun 5e Universe Mega Bundle. That's right, it's a Mega Bundle. Now it's Mega Bundle. Is the second offer in progress featuring PDFs for the 2013 5th edition of Shadowrun, the cyberpunk fantasy tabletop role-playing game from Catalyst Game Labs. If you're new to Shadowrun 5e, start with the revived February 2019 SR5 Essentials bundle, so I talked about last night. Then head back for this new companion offer with 18 setting source books that extend your 5e campaign deeper into the sprawling shadows of the Sixth World. For just $19.99, you'll get all 7 SR5 supplements in this offer's starter collection, which has a retail value of $130, as DRM-free PDFs, including the complete Seattle Sprawl digital box, Better Than Bad, it's my life story, the complete Trog, Coyotes, the Neo-Anarchist Streetpedia, the SR5 version of No Future, and 10 Terrorists. And if you pay more than the current threshold price of $31.71, you'll level up and also get this offer's entire bonus collection with 11 more titles worth an additional $118, including the tarot-based campaign supplement Book of the Lost, a source book for an alternate Fae-based setting, Court of Shadows, 3 City by Shadows location guides, Butte, Metropole, and San Francisco Metroplex, and 6 Shadows in Focus regional guides, Casablanca, Rabat, Cheyenne, Morocco, Sioux Nation, and the Sioux Nation Adventures, Counting Coup, and Starving the Masses. 3 of these titles, Better Than Bad, Neo-Anarchist Streetpedia, No Future 5e, appeared in earlier offers. In fact, the digital box also appeared previously in another offer. But there are 14 new titles. Well, they've never been on Bundle of Holding before. Those actually have a combined value of $158. I think all told, it's just under $250 worth of PDFs for, what was it, $31.71? Not too shabby. I'm curious if there's some confusion when people see that it's Shadowrun 5e. Because when you say 5e, most people automatically assume you are talking about 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. So it doesn't matter what game's 5th edition it is. If you say 5e, the vast majority of role players out there are going to be like, oh, this must use 5e rules. But that is not the case. This is the previous edition of Shadowrun, not the current edition. All right, on to our next news piece. Old Gods of Appalachia, All Your Gods Are Dead is landing in stores next week. Here's the skinny from Monte Cook Games. All Your Gods Are Dead is designed specifically for the Old Gods of Appalachia Game Master. It's chock full of the kinds of entities and items you love to put in your games. Creatures of great promise and power, an array of non-player characters who your players will love to love and possibly grow to hate, and cursed artifacts, plural, I should say, that promise powerful magic at a powerful cost. Additional optional rules and GM advice make it easy to provide your players with the darkest, scariest Old Gods of Appalachia experience at the table. If you're ready to go deeper into alternate Appalachia, this supplement will take your hand and guide you through the dark woods and probably just leave you there. I'm joking. And better this book than, say, pretty much anything else you might find out there in the shadowed hills and the hollers. Inside the book, you'll find inspiring and useful tips and advice for running Old Gods of Appalachia games, useful whether you're brand new to gaming or an experienced pro. New ciphers and artifacts, including cursed objects, which can provide players with powerful magic, but always at a cost. New optional rules for elements like rituals, possessions, and poor choices to increase the sense of dread, horror, and danger your players will feel at the table. GM intrusions designed to match up with elements like the green, the inner dark, and the natural world. Powerful, intriguing creatures and NPCs to surprise, delight, and terrify your players. The 128-page hardcover with PDF will carry an MSRP of $44.99. The PDF will be available for $17.99. Release date is December 10th. Sweet. I like Old Gods of Appalachia. I reviewed it. So if you are curious about it, by all means, check it out. I know some folks out there, they dislike the Cypher system, which, of course, is getting a new edition, which successfully crowdfunded a couple months back. I think it's fine. I do think you really need to be an experienced game master to pull it off. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have 20 years of experience. Just have some experience being a game master, because there is a lot of wiggle room with how things progress, I guess I will say. All right, on to our final news piece. Well, actually, before I do that, let's say hello to Pete Strakulich, who has joined us tonight. Welcome back. So the third edition of the Orbital 2100 role-playing game is now out in PDF from Zozer Games. Here's what I know. Orbital 2100 is a science fiction setting for Cepheus Universal and other classic 2D6 science fiction games, such as Traveler. Experience the danger of space flight across our own solar system, radiation, solar flares, zero-G muscle wastage, explosive decompression. There are plenty of ways to die out here. Colonization and settlement is driven by an intense rivalry. The Earth is locked in a cold war with the people of Luna. Both face off 400,000 kilometers apart, threatening mutual annihilation, whilst they compete to colonize the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Older colonies like Mars and Mercury are independent and caught up in this struggle for solar system supremacy. Various campaign types are presented, from space crews, the star cops, asteroid miners, to secret agents. Whatever you decide to do, you cannot escape the Cold War, the espionage, and the secret agendas of the major powers. This edition of Orbital 2100 features data sheets for a quick player orientation, troubleshooting, giving players choice and agency in problem solving, advice on how to GM a technical role-playing game, factions, 35 corporations, crime gangs, NGOs, and agencies, stats and motivations of the major political figures, character creation anchored into the Cold War setting, 6 campaign types from spies to special ops, astronauts to belt miners, rules for operating deep space vehicles, hardware and how it works, from vac suits to rovers, lunar landers to mass drivers, airlocks, oxygen mining units, and plenty more. There's habitats, space stations, outposts, and O'Neill colonies. UWP stats for all significant bodies in the solar system, as well as in-depth write-ups for all the planets and main moons with handy data cards. There are hidden agendas, espionage, and working for a secret Cold War faction, NPCs and plot ideas, alien ruins on Mars, SETI transmissions, as well as reviews of movies, books, and online resources that could add to your game. This 292-page PDF is available right now over at DriveThruRPG for $12.99. I do understand the softcover and the hardcover will be available soon. And I think they're print on demand through Lulu, if I remember correctly. So I do want to point out that I did check to make sure that there is no AI utilized with this release, because there's been some confusion, at least on my end, because I thought I had run across some stuff from Zozer Games where they were using AI artwork. And then I mentioned it one time on a live stream, and then somebody said, oh, no, they've never done that. And yeah, I double checked. They are showing artists for this, and it does say that no AI was used. Because you know my policy. But you might recall, I was talking about how there aren't a lot of kind of hard science fiction role-playing games out there. When we were taking a look at the Void Runners Codex from Eon Publishing yesterday. Well, this is one. And yes, as W. Forge points out, just in time to compete with Pioneer, which is part of the Mongoose Publishing Traveler line. As far as I understand, it's going to utilize the Traveler mechanics and everything. Pete Stracklich asks if I ever reviewed the Purple Planet from Dungeon Crawl Classics. No, I have not. I have not. I mean, the reality is, we've talked about this before. Goodman Games doesn't really care about reviews, so, which is fine. I mean, I've got no problem with that. So, you know, they sent The Dying Earth. I did some reviews of that stuff, and that was it. I mean, I've reviewed Dungeon Crawl Classics, which I purchased. I reviewed Mutant Crawl Classics, which I also purchased. So Pete Stracklich says they want to send an extra copy. Okay. So what you can do is you can email me at jeffmcaleer@thegaminggang.com. If after all this time you don't know how to spell my name or anything like that, go to thegaminggang.com. Up top, you'll see there's a contact link. You can just click on that, and I'll be happy to give you my address, because I'm always looking to review stuff. In fact, while we're kind of on the topic, I should mention, if any of you out there, you know, purchase games from a publisher, or maybe you are friends with people who are publishers and you would like to see that publisher's releases get covered by the Gaming Gang, let them know. You thought I was going to say, well, let me know. No. You're the customer. You're the consumer. They care about that. So Pete Stryker says, will do. You're my guy, Jeff. Cheers. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind, because amazingly, we've got people who hang out, watching chat and stuff like that, you know, watching and taking part in chat, I should say. And they're like, hey, have you ever covered XYZ company? I'm like, no, I've heard of them. It's like, oh yeah, I know them. I'll touch base with them. You know, it's like, okay. So that's happened. That's happened before. And Burrell says, so what was that about YouTube changing their handles? They changed mine, so I tried to change it back. It says my old handle is already taken. I'm not affiliated with YouTube. All I know is this has happened before. Every few years, YouTube does this. Why? I don't know. But I remember it did this, and it changed my name. And then I went back. But, you know, funny enough, if it should just be your YouTube name. So your YouTube name could be anything, and there could be multiples of it, I would think. So I don't know. I would say take a peek. I would say take a peek at your settings, because you're not going to be able to change like your login name. Your login name is going to stay the same. It's just I think it's They just call it the YouTube name, YouTube nickname, something like that. All right, so that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I mentioned Drive-Thru RPG a few times. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to visit Drive-Thru RPG, Dungeon Masters Guild, Storytellers Vault, Wargame Vault, any of the multiple One Bookshelf sites, stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do go a long, long way to keeping thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And of course, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, got a couple of other ways that you can support the outlet. One, by making a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. It's a little chillier than usual, because it's a little chilly down here in the Duct Tape Studios. And then, of course, you can also become a monthly member of our Patreon. And on the live shows, I always like to give a big shout out to our patrons. So big thank you to Adrian Carpio, Gustavo Cavalho, Herman Lutman, Jason Lawman, Caval, Kevin R. Smith, Sean O'Donnell, Talzek, Dan Webb, GameCat, Kevin King, Pete Strakulich, RPG Munch, Tessie Trekkie, Tier 2 DM, Agile Monk, and the Madman. Much appreciated, folks. Thank you very kindly. All right. So we got a Gooey Cube box to dive on into. So normally this would be where I'd be kind of, hey, this is what's been going on, this and that, yada, 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 right? My random musings, as I like to refer to them in the timestamps. I know we're going to be digging into a lot of stuff here. So, no random musings tonight. Outside of the fact that I do want to remind those of you out there who are watching, who are members of our Patreon, you have access, early access, to the holiday used game sale. So every 6 months or so, I'll normally do a used game sale. But this time around, I decided I would give early access to our Patreon members as a thank you to them being members. And then on Friday, probably Friday night, I will give access to the Discord members, because right now you need to have a password to get into the page that shows the sale item. So just want to mention it. And if you're interested in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, there's a lot of Pathfinder 2nd Edition stuff, a lot of adventures, lots of the adventures, and they're being offered as packages. So if it's like a 3-part adventure path, it's being offered as the adventure path, not as individuals there. So just letting you know. All right. So we're going to be diving on into The Darkest Dream in just a few moments. But before we do that, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
The weather is right for racing reindeer and rose-red toddlers on snow-white ice. The time is right for colored lights to warm the heart, for glowing candles, ribbons and bows. Christmas is here again, and silver trees are blossoming with gifts. The season's greetings to all our friends, and we pray that the season of peace and goodwill may reach out to all the seasons of the year.
This evening, ladies and gentlemen, with the Christmas holidays so close, I thought that
Mr. Swayze, Mr. Swayze. I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Swayze, but I'm in an awful hurry and I need your help.
Well, who are you?
I'm Santa's #1 helper, and I just came down from the North Pole.
Well, little fellow, what can I do for you?
Oh, we have such a problem, Mr. Swayze. We've gotten so many letters from people wanting Timex watches for Christmas, and we just don't know if there are Timex watches for all the different kinds of people who want them.
I'm sure there are. How do you like this Timex Christmas tree?
Oh, this is certainly a beautiful tree, Mr. Swayze.
Well, on this tree, you'll find a Timex watch for everyone in the whole world. For instance, here is the famous waterproof and shock-resistant Timex 100 at $15.
Is this the watch that takes a licking and keeps on ticking?
Yes, this is one of the Timex watches that we put through the torture test. And here is the Timex self-wind watch. It's completely automatic and costs only $14.95.
You mean it winds itself?
That's right, with the normal, natural movements of your wrist.
Do you have anything for the lovely ladies who have written to Santa?
Oh, of course we have. Here's the lady's waterproof watch with its smart classic lines at $15. And right here is the tonneau with its handsome cord bracelet, also $15. And for the lady who wants the jeweled look, here is the Timex bangle bracelet, priced at $16.95.
And I got lots of letters from young people. What do you have for them, Mr. Swayze?
Oh, well, this Sportster model is a great favorite with the youngsters. And there's more.
Thank you, Mr. Swayze, but I've got to get back. I've got to get all these Timex gifts together.
Oh, well, just 1 second. You know, these Timex watches are priced from only $9.95 to $16.95.
Great glory. We can afford to give Timex watches to everyone on our list.
Of course you can. And so can you, ladies and gentlemen. That's why this Christmas, more people will give and get Timex than any other watch in the world.
Beneath the city of New York are living catacombs, an endless maze of subterranean tunnels, unfit for anything human, unauthorized for anything experimental,
Hold it! There's something moving up ahead in the tunnel!
and unlikely to bring anyone down there. So, they're coming up. Chud. Chud, check your basement and your bathroom. Keep off the street and try to hide. But remember, the dark is their place. The night is their time. And tomorrow, the only things living in the city of New York will be Chud. Chud. Cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers. Chud. They're not staying down there anymore.
What a perfect holiday movie, right? So the game plan was to start sharing trailers from some of the absolute worst Christmas movies ever made, such as the, what is it, 2010, 2011 Nutcracker in 3D. It's like a weird alternate Nazi Germany looking place. But kept getting copyright flags. I was like, damn it. It's like, come on, these movies are awful. Nobody gives a shit about sharing the trailers, do they really? So I guess we're going to just stick to kind of like B-movie trailers, even though it is the holiday season. All right, so tonight we are going to dive on in and take a first look at The Darkest Dream for 5e Dungeons & Dragons from Gooey Cube. This box set with PDFs carries an MSRP of $70. If you want to grab just the PDFs, you can do so for $45. Having said that, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got The Darkest Dream. Few things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Gooey Cube were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this first look with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the booklets in here or book in here and handout and card and things like that. But I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside. And then lastly, this is an adventure campaign. This kicks off the Red Star Rising campaign. So if you're a player and maybe your game master's already picked this up, maybe they're talking about picking this up, be warned, even though I know practically nothing about this, there are going to be some spoilers simply as we're flipping on through. Ember L says, get the trailer for Silent Night, Deadly Night. Great Christmas-themed 80s slasher movie. I'll take a peek, but once again, for some oddball reason, trailers are getting copyright flagged more and more often now. Down. All right, so let's get the shrink wrap off here. Take a peek at the back. Hey, we got two backings. Chapter 1 of the Red Star Rising campaign. The Darkest Dream begins the epic tale of a group of Hanataz youth who are charged with working security for the last carnival of the season. The Hanataz are the traveling folk of the world of, I think it's Zathi or Zathi or Zathay. When I do my reviews, I will make sure I find out what is the proper pronunciation for this game world, and are an ostracized people due to the many blood-touched members of their troops. But while the traveling folk are not welcome in most towns and villages, the shows they put on are enjoyed by many. But this is no ordinary carnival. Nefarious and vile schemes are afoot. An ancient foe plots deadly revenge. A group of organized criminals looks to frame the Hanataz for murder. And nearby, creatures from the dark below plan an attack on the camp. Beyond this, it is Dark Tide's Eve, which is the time of frightening and evil portents. Can you and your friends overcome the many dangers set against you, protect the troop, and solve the mystery of the Darkest Dream? If you don't, many will die, including those you love. Bum, bum, bum. Sean Mayer is joining us. Good to see you. Pete Strakulich has mentioned that they were interested in Gooey Cube, but they've been keeping their eye open for reviews. I haven't started reviewing any of these yet. I will point out this is going to be my first review, mainly because it is an adventure set and it is starting off at first level. And then we'll go back and I'll do my review of the Darken Haven as well as the Genzicon Adventure Bundle. All right. So that is the lowdown. I'm going to open this up. There's an item in here that I am going to remove because it's the code for the PDF. All right, come on, for crying out loud. It's just a piece of paper. Try to pull the damn piece of paper out. So this is a box. This does not have the slip case, the paper slip case over it, which I'm fine with. So we've got special item cards. We have Gooey rewards. I'm sure there's a few other cards in here as well. We've got our character portraits. So if you have seen my other first looks at the 2 previous Gooey Cube products that I've peeked at, we've seen all this stuff. This is par for the course for Gooey Cube, at least box set releases. Reading 8 said, come on, Jeff, get it together. Tessie Trekkies also joined us in chat. Good to see ya. Says, please read this first. Get the philosophy of Gooey Cube, the Gooey way. So this looks like this is a player handout here. Kind of interesting. It's just stapled together. So it's not put together as a little booklet or anything like this is, right? With the staples. Then we got the game book. We've got a GM, I should say the adventure book. We've got a GM reference in here, player aids. Sweet. All right. So first thing we'll do is try to get this out of the way. All right, read that first. Okay, I did. Evelyn wooded it. No, he didn't. I Natalie wooded it. Let's try to get this shadow out of here. And it's the shadow from this box. There we go. That's a little better. I wonder if this was one of the first products released by Gooey Cube, because we hadn't seen this before. So we started a game company. Weird. Seriously. We've got an interesting group. Some of us have only been playing for a few years and a few for only a few months. Some of us are readers, not players, and a few of us think that the rest of us are just crazy. On the other hand, some of us have been playing and GMing for more than 40 years. There are a few things we love more than the game. Nice. Says, we GM perhaps thousands of games. We kind of lost count 20 years ago. Great lore makes the game epic. This is their philosophy here. Tales really do grow in the telling. Awesome GMs use all the tools, structure, randomness, and improvisation. Levels are relative. Uncertainty is way better. Exploration can be so much more. The challenge is paramount. Great roleplay is magic. Great GMs are well prepared. Music, light, noise, and sound effects. Then we've got the house rules, mitigation of critical hits. If you play critical hits, and we do, you know they're really fun and add wonderful... God, I hate that word. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. To battles, but if you're a math person, you also know that the characters are like gamblers in a casino and the GM is the house. That is, a GM has infinite numbers of monsters to throw at the characters, but each player has typically only one character in the game. Because of this, the math would tell us that over time, every character is going to take a bad critical hit. By a bad critical hit, we mean the cut off your head and dead variety. In truth, most will take multiple bad criticals over time, assuming that they were somehow able to survive the previous ones they took. When you look at criticals this way, you begin to understand that they really have the potential to ruin a campaign. That is, unless your players like to regularly see their characters split from ear to ear, gutted like a science class toad, separated from their arms and legs, and or blasted into piles of bone and gore. To fix this and still get the fun of critical hits, we make all monsters and opponents have to roll a 20 to achieve a critical hit, and then a second 20 to confirm it. Okay, but I'm going to take a guess that the player characters are all going to still get just on a 20. Level ranges for opponents and everyone else for that matter. Just encounters to make them fun. Start them a little tough. Managed leveling. Gooey rewards. Those are some of the cards we saw. Gooey rewards are not mandatory for a Gooey Cube adventure, but they do make the game far more enjoyable but if you'd rather not use them, it will not create an unbalancing effect within the campaign. Gooey rewards give players a feeling of advancement even though they haven't hit a level. In some ways, they're even more fun than leveling. Keep in mind, however, that they should be used sparingly. All right. Help with healing, help with resting, magical detection, and identify spells. Help with healing. Don't most 5e groups like stop to rest like every 20 minutes after every like encounter? It's like, oh, let's stop and rest. Really? All we were doing was negotiating with that merchant. Yeah, I know, but we need to rest. Just a short rest. GM skill modifier roll. Keep the required DC number a secret. Well, I would never reveal that. It's like you don't reveal armor class. You don't tell the players, hey, okay, so you need to roll a 17 to hit and do any damage. Make exceptional spells tough to get. Resurrection, Raise Dead, and Revivify, and all the rest of those bring you back spells. What never made sense to us is how come anybody died for good in the game, especially higher level types, other than of old age, that is. Seriously, Raise Dead is a 5th level spell. As time went on, anytime anybody died, unless it was something crazy like a sphere of annihilation or whatnot, they just got brought back. This meant that death to higher level characters became meaningless. And what fun is that, right? Again, if there's no risk, the game loses its funness. I don't know if I'd use that word, but I do agree with where they're going with this. So there are a few adjustments to the game. So they multiplied the diamonds needed by 10. So Raise Dead needs 5,000 gold valued diamonds, not 500. Said, second, they made the rule that the diamonds to be used in the spell must be flawless. All right, cool. Make money easy. Yeah, I agree with that too. And some other stuff. Okay, cool. And then this is a handout about being Hanataz. So this is our introduction to the adventure. This section introduces the adventure and is all about your character and the Hanataz troop to which you belong. We'll set the stage for the beginning of Carnival and your responsibilities therein. So it's going to give us info about, I guess, right here about the Hanataz or Hanataz, talking about their troop, the Blue Veil troop. And glossary terms for the game world. All right. That's kind of cool. Like I said, I'm a little surprised it's stapled together, but yeah, it's total of 7 pages. All right. So we've got that. Now, here is the adventure book. And I have to say, the cover of The Darkest Dream has a real serious, the dark eye art vibe to it, doesn't it? If you're familiar with the dark eye. So I saw it. I was like, that's kind of wild. The artwork is a little different on this cover than on the other covers. All right. So chapter 1 of the Red Star Rising campaign. Here are our credits. And yes, you notice this has the rings here. So this just lays flat on your game table. That is how the longer books go. So W. Ford says, yeah, the Ulysses Spiel version of The Dark Eye. Yep. Well, that's the one that I'm familiar with, because it's the one that's in English. So, all right. Got our dedications. We've got our table of contents. 5 things you should know before we begin. This adventure and the associated campaign is designed to create an immersive experience for your players. Each adventure builds substantially upon the next. This adventure and the campaign are designed for player character heroes who want to be part of an epic story. The design of the campaign is centered around creating the story and not solely on gaining levels or getting loot. The complexity of this adventure and the depth of the overarching campaign require more extensive preparation. So we get a little cheers and greetings to the game master. So this is the first part of the Red Star Rising campaign. I think there's 5 parts. I believe there are 4 that are available right now there, just like this box that we're taking a peek at. And I think the finale is on the horizon, or there are 4 parts, and I saw the 4 chapters on the Gooey Cube website, and the 4th part is on the horizon, because I could have swore I ran across something saying that Gooey Cube is about to wrap up this campaign, which I guess they're very excited about because this has been going on for a while. Here's our adventure overview. The Darkest Dream adventure is the first chapter of the, well, I already told you this, Red Star Rising campaign, and is designed to set the stage for all that is to follow. The multi-chapter series is a deep and abiding tale of love and loss, betrayal and redemption, and the triumph of good over the most terrible of evils. The adventures are set in a time when the world of Zathe? I'm going to go Zathe. Let's go with that, and then I'll find out how it's really pronounced. It's finally recovering from the horrific event known as the Woe of Ruin. But another calamity is soon to befall Xanthe, and it could mean the end of all. The year to come will usher in a most grievous and terrible era. Bloody wars will be fought, nations will fall, and chaos will reign. At the center of it all will be your player characters, one of whom may even ascend to godhood by the end. If you run this one well, it just may turn out to be one of the best games your group has ever experienced. We very much hope that is so. All right, so notes for the GM. Now, remember, we also have a GM reference book, too. Here's the read aloud, which is in bold. And I mentioned this before when we were taking a peek at the other box sets that the fine folks over at Gooey Cube were kind enough to provide me. That's a lot of read aloud. Starting here, going to there, that is a shitload of read aloud. And that's something I have noticed with the Gooey Cube releases. They're pretty heavy into lengthy read aloud, which worries me. Now here, this obviously is not just one big wall of text that you're going to read. This looks like this is responses to different NPCs. But here, all of this, all of that is in one go. Well, I'll be reviewing it, so stay tuned. W4 asks, what does everyone think about spiral bound versus other binding types? I don't mind it. It depends on how abusive you are with your books, I think, or how much wear and tear books tend to get at your game table. You know, do you have players just pick your book up like from pages inside, stuff like that? I mean, it happens. Those people usually don't stay too long at the game table. They get booted out, but still. I like the artwork, and I also like the concept that we see with Gooey Cube, where this is kind of a throwback to some of the old TSR adventures where we have POV for the player characters. And of course, these are colored. Right, so we've got a side quest, the Old Well. The encounters also fall into the GM reference book, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because then you're going through your adventure book, and then if you've got an encounter coming up, you can just kind of flip to it in the GM reference book and have that ready to go. I thought that was kind of cool. All right, so we got a little side quest to kick things off, and then we get into the show. The Carnival. So we have keyed locations for the Carnival. And we've got important NPCs. And we also see, as with the other Gooey Cube releases we've taken a peek at, artwork varies in style throughout. This one does look a little more uniform than others that we've seen, but there are some pieces of art that I can see right off the bat kind of stick out a little bit as being way different than the other artwork. Some looks like it's digital using, people's photographs, and then other pieces of art look like pretty traditional fantasy artwork. So this is still the Carnival. Different locations, different tents. Wonder if this whole adventure takes place at, I guess it will, because here we're almost to the end of the adventure, and it says the closing of Carnival. Yeah, we got the glossary, which I think this is also in that little handout. And then we've got the second chapter, The Foulest of Spirits, which is also available now. The plot thickens. Okay. So that is a peek inside the adventure book. And that clocked in at 55 pages. So next up, we've got the GM book. This is the reference book. And see, now I'm encountering something that can kind of be a problem when you have these ringed books. The pages were kind of jamming up there. So we have got, well, you know what? Take a peek at the credits again, because we might have a fresh group of credits. Before it says, what strange fates await those in shadowed tales? Welcome to GM's reference book for the darkest dream. Before you start, however, you might have to stop, because if you haven't done so yet, you should probably read the adventure book first. If you don't, all the stuff in here won't make as much sense as it will once you've got a handle on the adventure. We have the Way of the Goo, a game master state of mind of sorts. So this is where we once again will see kind of the tenets of Gooey Cube Games. We've got the not so random encounter table. We've discovered this previously. And I agree. I agree with what's presented with the concept that, random encounters are right about what it's in the title, right? They're random. Now, depending on how well the adventure's been designed, sometimes random encounters fit very nicely into the tale. Other times I have seen a multitude of adventures where it's just like, oh, okay, let's just throw this in. It's like, okay, why the hell would this be around? You know? It's like, why is there a scorpion in this fog? You know? So they discuss the NSREs. It says, when we dropped random encounters and started making encounters that made sense in the scope of the game and added to the story, our games got way better. You can still roll them if you feel you need to, but we prefer to throw them in when they make sense versus just because we rolled a 1 or whatever. You can also tell that the way that this is presented is very conversational. Okay, so these are the NSREs, which are essentially optional. Then we start getting into the adventure book encounters that I mentioned as we were flipping on through. So we would see like a little bar here saying 2 arachnid revenants encounter. And then we take a look in the GM book. That's where we get all the information. W. Forge had pointed out that they like to have a readable spine on their books. I can certainly understand that. So these are all the different encounters. So let's use one as an example. The Gooey Shrine encounter. So they run across Green Gamathian, who is a Gamathian, neutral evil. So you get armor class, hit points, you get the attributes, you get skills, senses, language. What's their challenge rating? They have natural camouflage. So the splotches on its skin provide advantage on dexterity, stealth checks made to hide. It has a neurotoxic, I should say, miasma. Any creature, excluding other reptilian species that come within 30 feet of a living green Gamathian, must succeed on a DC 12 intelligence saving throw or have their mind fogged by the Gamathian's airborne neurotoxin. Failing to save applies disadvantage to all initiative rolls for 10 minutes. On a successful saving throw, the creature is able to stave off the toxin and suffers no negative effects and is immune to the neurotoxin for 30 minutes. It has natural claws, so its unarmed strikes cause slashing damage instead of bludgeoning. It has multi-attack, makes 2 attacks, one with its bite, one with its crude weapon. You can use a short sword, great club, spear. It talks about the possessions. This is between the Gamathians, they have a goat hoof necklace, shoddy and broken swords, 2 iron ankle bracelets with bronze inlay, 3 gold value, a tarnished bronze bracelet, 5 gold, a gold earring, 5 gold value, a gold earring with 3 amethysts worth 9 gold, a leather pouch with dried goat meat, 3 wineskins filled with foul-smelling liquor. I wonder if it's delicious, though. Smelling liquor is delicious. 2 tinder boxes, a carved wood frog, 6 dried fish wrapped in cloth, 18 silver, 10 lex. Not sure. Obviously, it's for the game world. Their money, and 13 golds. Then, of course, there's a Gooey Cube in this encounter. It's the Gooey Shrine encounter. There you go. Hey, just happen to pull that out at random. And it's got a Gooey Cube. Pete Strackledge says, Spiral Bound seems cheap, but when it lays flat on the table, you see what the spiral is all about. As far as the production quality of this, the paper stock is excellent. I'll tell you that right now. Nice and thick. I mean, it's on the verge of being cardstock, to be honest. I've seen player handouts that are supposed to be like cardstock on paper like this. Now, does that mean that it's immune to being torn out of the book? No, absolutely not. Because that's a risk you take with something that's spiral bound. That's why I had mentioned, depends on how abusive you are to your books on how well this will hold up. All right, so we got reference section on the Blue Veil Troop, which is what the players belong to. Is this a big chunk of read aloud? Oh, tales. Some stories from the 10th Fire. Allies and acquaintances. So we get our important NPCs. Is this our bestiary here? Yep, monsters and nemesis. New monsters. Having not started to review any of this, I have to be honest, I pointed this out earlier. I've been impressed by what I've seen. I am concerned about all that read aloud, though. You might think I'm kind of harping on that, but as someone who has game mastered for a long time, now I'm not saying, it's like, oh, I'm the greatest game master out there. No, I'd never talk about that. I never say that. But I know from experience as a player, every once in a while, because I am the forever GM, but over the past couple of years, I've actually had a chance to play at conventions on 3 occasions. I'm going to get all teary-eyed. And a couple of the game masters busted out they felt like never-ending read-alouds that were probably half a page. And even I found myself kind of checking out on it. It was like, when is this going to wrap up? So here we've got some of the magic items. Not so mundane items. And then I want to say that some of the artwork here are employees of Gooey Cube. And I think other pieces of art might be from like Kickstarter backers. Because I do think Gooey Cube does rely on crowdfunding for some of their stuff. All right. So there is the reference book. Now, we have maps. If this is like what we've seen in the past, we're going to have maps. We're going to have some reference materials. Okay, so here's our NPC cheat sheet. So we had friendly NPCs, enemy NPCs. You get to add NPCs as the GM. That's cool that they left some empty space there. And then we've got the Hanataz NPCs. This is on both sides, right? Yep. So it is both sides there. Oh, that's right. We've got a bunch of pre-generated characters. I saw that when I was taking a peek at the Gooey Cube website when I was checking out the pricing on this. I think there's like 24 pre-generated characters. Which, I mean, that is a ton. Most of the time, you're lucky. I mean, I shouldn't even say lucky. Most of the time, you're living high on the hog if a game product that's including pre-generated characters gives you 10. Usually it's 6. And it's for adventures that tend to be for up to, it's usually like 4 characters. All right. So on the front half, We get the background. It looks like each of the characters also has a secret. And then here is the character sheet. Gotta say, this is pretty light. Which I don't mind too much, but it is really light. You may not even be picking this up on the camera. These are filled in. They are pretty small too. Hey, but once again, we're looking at 24 pre-generated characters. If this is too small, remember, I got old eyes. If the print is too small, if the font is too small, just go grab regular character sheets, fill them out with the information here. But I think that's pretty cool. we're not going to take a look at all of them, but we've got half-elf ranger, female elf fey-touched rogue, a human dragon-touched wizard, earth-touched cleric. So yeah, we got quite a few. Now, some of them have a little more backstory than others, but we do have some blank areas there for you to fill out. So that's very cool. So that is that as far as the pre-gens. And I guess I missed one there. The half-orc ogre-touched barbarian. Now we got our handouts. This should also include, I believe, our maps. So for an MSRP of $70, this looks like there's quite a lot to this, which is, once again, something that we've seen with these Gooey Cube releases so far. They are packed with content. All right, so we'll probably have two maps, right? One's going to be there you go, GM map. That one is our player map. These were one-sided. Yep. That's how they were in the other releases that we've peeked at. So here we go. Our GM maps there. So a few different maps. Once again, each with the GM and the other for the players. And we start getting into the POVs and handouts as far as clues and stuff. This is really cool. Yeah, I'm pretty certain that Gooey Cube does virtual tabletop modules. I wonder if it's only Foundry or if they do Fantasy Grounds and Foundry or Roll20. Because, most companies, they don't have the finances to be sitting there porting over everything to a multitude of virtual tabletops. So I notice lately Foundry is kind of the go-to for most companies, and I can certainly see why. Just kind of taking a peek at some of these. The owlbear and the manticore. Okay, so. Oh, okay. So this is the Tent of Jests. That's the Tent of Illusions, but it looks the same. It's the same artwork. Yes, handout 38, the Tent of Jests, and then handout 40, the tents, I should say, of Illusions. I wonder if that's an illusion. I don't know. The snakes emerge. Anyway, the reason why I mentioned the virtual tabletop is because these are just absolutely perfect, right? You're setting the scene. You got your players on Foundry or Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, what have you. And you just pop this up on the screen. Pretty nice. Oh, look, it's the Gooey Cube, part of the Gooey Shrine. That's that reptilian creature, I guess. Well, there's two of them there. All right. And some of these are handouts where there are clues or maybe riddles and stuff like that. Okay. I'm going to put those back into the box along with the pre-generated player characters. Then we've got some decks of cards. These are going to be magic items or the not so mundane items too, I think. Pete Rackledge says, pre-gens, handouts, maps, I'm sold. Well, I will mention, this is the first release from Gooey Cube that I have seen the pre-gens with. But you got to keep in mind, the other two releases we've taken a peek at. One was a city supplement, so it's all focused on this city. And then the second was an adventure collection, the Gensicon Adventure Bundle, which had 4 adventures contained within. And they're, I want to say they're adventures that tend to be the like Gen Con releases. So they're like exclusive to Gen Con. And those did not have pre-gens either, but no pre-gens, but tons of handouts, maps, the character portraits, all that stuff, just like we're seeing here, are in those others as well as item cards and stuff. It's got Cleric Scroll, Wizard Scroll, Ring of Jumping. All right. Font's a little too small. I mean, look at all this space on this card. Now I can read it, but I would not want to be reading this font a lot. While wearing this ring, the user can cast the jump spell from it as a bonus action. Note that the user can target only himself or herself to provide the benefit of the spell, though they are varieties that allow the capability to be used more often. This ring is the type that allows 2 uses per long rest. W. Ford says, whatever happened to Theater of the Mind? I guess that's a poor man's gamer's path to take. I think a Theater of the Mind's not dead. But as we deal with, you know what? We'll finish taking a look at this. I will spend a couple of moments talking about what I think is going on as far as Theater of the Mind. All right. So Animal Friendship Potion, Climber's Gloves, Invulnerability Potion. So these are the cards. Then we have the Gooey Rewards, which we have seen those cards, those kind of cards in the past. All right, come on, get in the bag, crying out loud. It's not like there's so many cards that they wouldn't fit. These didn't have art before. I'm going to say that's just a blank piece of cardstock. So advantage on attack roll, extra attacks, 1 rep point. I assume it's reputation point, temporary hit points. So remember, these are things that you can add on. We were taking a peek at the Gooey Rewards, where it's something I think you might give out at the end of each session, possibly. to deserving players. So they're just minor additional goodies or bonuses for them. And then we've got the character portraits. The Darken Haven box set actually had 2 packages of these. There were that many NPCs. J-Man is hanging with us. Good to see it. They said they've been using Gemini during game sessions. Use voice to describe the scene, and image outputs are now outstanding. All right. So some credits on the art for these. So we just get a little bit of a background about the character. We don't have stat blocks or anything like that on these cards because, for one, I think you hand them out to the players. That might give you a little bit of information about them. Let's find out. Let's see what we got here. Oh, it's the stripper. All right. Okay, so this is Maeva. None of the troop are more well-versed or skilled in the arts of the spell dancers than Maeva. It is whispered that she once stopped a rampaging horde of orcs in the Northlands with her fey-touched beauty and entrancing movements alone. The rosy tint of her skin, glittering blue eyes, and coral color of her hair are all traits shared by her sisters Elnas and Savara. Sweet. This is what I mean, where some of the artwork looks like it's, based off of someone's photograph. That kind of looks like it as well, which is fine. I have no problem with it. Very cool. Oh, look, it's Hemingway. Hemingway's making a guest appearance. Hey, Ernest, what's going on? Oh, there you go. Picture of me as a kid. This is Smedley. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Smedley. Smedley DeVerne. The DeVerne family has recently come into great wealth and the title from a modest background. They incautiously display their wealth with fine clothes, jewelry, coaches drawn by purebred Shoggenshire greys, and with other acts of conspicuous consumption. Because of this lavish lifestyle, the young and brash Smedley has had little opportunity to experience the outside world and therefore lacks any sense of decorum or reserve. See, now this font is a little bit bigger. I would have liked to have seen that font size on these cards. You'd easily fit this onto that card. Now, are there some cards in here that probably take up most of this? Probably, but not all of them. So I'm just saying it's just a note that I'm making. Yeah, Sasquatch is part of the troop as well. Okay. So these are the character portraits. So we have the pre-generated characters and the handouts. We got 2 NPC cheat sheets. We have got the GM reference book, as well as the adventure book. We've got the handout for the players as far as being Henataz, and then the Gooey Way, which we saw some, I don't know if all of it was repeated in the GM book, but some of it was like the 10 tenets of it. So we've got that. We've got the please read this first, which we did not do because I don't follow instructions well. We have the special item cards. the Gooey rewards and our character portraits. And that is what we find inside The Darkest Dream, the first chapter of the Red Star Rising campaign from our friends over at Gooey Cube. Once again, this is available now. It carries an MSRP of $70. That is the box set with PDFs. If you want to grab just the PDFs, you can do so for $45. I will also mention, I believe Gooey Cube is still doing some like Cyber Week sales. So some of their box sets, I think, are 20% off. You'll want to double check to make sure what I'm saying is correct. Now, of course, they did have Black Friday sale. They had that through Cyber Monday. And hopefully those of you watching did see that I posted a bunch of deals for Black Friday through Cyber Monday for a lot of different companies, not only role-playing game companies, board game companies. I also did some miniatures companies and stuff like that. Retired on a Bike is with us. It might be a first-time visit in chat, or it might be somebody we see all the time who YouTube has changed their name. So says people are supposed to follow or actually read the README first. I do what I want. Right. I will review this in the not too distant future. I did also point out I am going to review this first, even though we've taken a look at a couple other box sets prior to The Darkest Dream. So keep that in mind. Okay. So real quick, there was it W Forge? Yes, there you go. Whatever happened to Theater of the Mind? This is just from my experience, and this is just an observation. Everybody's, game group is going to be different. Your mileage is certainly going to vary. But it seems to me that people who are 30 or younger, who are relatively new, or maybe they only play D&D, but let's say they might be relatively new to role-playing games. They have a very hard time picturing what's going on as far as Theater of the Mind. And we talked a little bit about this before. And, when I was growing up back in the early 1820s, we didn't get to read that much because, candles were expensive. And of course, the sun goes down. That was the end of the light. When I was 10, 11, 12, I have always been a voracious reader. Sadly, I don't have the kind of time I used to really kick back and enjoy a book. That's why I tend to listen to audiobooks. And I know that's cheating. Some people think, that's not reading. Well, I know that. It's not reading. Somebody else is reading it. I'm listening. Especially when I would drive, some of you may not know this if you're relatively new to watching the show. But a few years back, I used to deliver RVs around the country. So I would listen to audiobooks all the time. And I could go through 35 hours of audiobooks in a single trip, sometimes more than that. So listen to them constantly. And I listened to audiobooks prior to that. I still listen to audiobooks now. I do get an opportunity to read, and it's all role-playing game stuff and gaming stuff. So I still get a lot of reading in, just not, I almost said reading for pleasure, but I enjoy reading the role-playing game stuff. Reading literature, I guess we will say. So I got interested in science fiction and fantasy by way of reading. So I had read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings probably by 1978. Chris 2736 is, I should say Chris D 2736 is with us in chat, says, thanks for posting those Black Friday deals. It was helpful. I do that every year. I try to do that every year. I think this year there were maybe 30 companies. This is about what I usually share. Some had great deals, others not so great. In my opinion, one of the best is still Drive-Thru RPG, and their Black Friday through Cyber Monday were the most PDFs you are ever going to see are like at least 30% off. And then they did some bundles of games for like 80% off. Anyway, so I got into science fiction and fantasy by way of reading. So read all of Tolkien. I read Michael Moorcock. I read Fritz Leiber. I read a lot of Robert Silverberg. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Alan Dean Foster. I used to read tons of Alan Dean Foster. In fact, the Pip and Flicks series, I think that's the little dragonette's name. Flinks. No, actually, it's Pip. Pip is the little dragonette. Flinks is the main character. He's the guy. So that's how, and of course you're reading a book. So it's all theater of the mind. You have to picture all this stuff. I remember reading The Stand when it came out, and I was in like, I don't know, 7th grade, because that's how much reading I did. And I'll never forget, I told this story before. I gave a book report. My book report was on The Stand, and other people were doing their book reports on like the Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew. It's like, yeah. Flinks is a contraction of Philip Lynx, says Cthulhu. There we go. So, of course, we didn't have, we had what? Star Wars. We had Star Trek, the motion picture. We had reruns of Star Trek. We had Space 1999. We would have like, Battlestar Galactica, which started out and everybody's like, yeah, because it was all we had, right? So it's like, okay, man, that's really good. But now looking back at it, you're kind of like, And that went like right off a cliff. So we didn't have we had like Buck Rogers. So as I mentioned to my nephew Cameron not too long ago, I said, nowadays they have Star Wars every week. Every week is a new Star Wars. I don't mean that literally, but every week there's some like big budget movie or series. We had the finale of Stranger Things premiered. We had Alien Earth. We've got all these different things that would have blown our minds back in the late 1970s and early 80s. But we had to imagine this stuff. We didn't have it right there in front of us on a screen to watch. And when I was a preteen or tween or teenager in my early 20s, we didn't have the sort of geek culture content that is out there now. And we didn't have it where it was so well regarded and well received that if you're a fan of it, you're not a dork, right? One of the things I've mentioned in the past is when my best friend Elliot Miller, our friends, and I were in high school, freshman year, we still played Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. And then we were also branching out into all these other games. it wasn't like, oh yeah, you guys are the cool guys. You play D&D. So it wasn't like you went around telling people, oh yeah, oh, this weekend, we spent the whole weekend. We were at Tim's house and we were all playing, hell was the one that had the guns in Navarone. It was like the first World War II role-playing game that came out. You didn't tell people that. You weren't like, oh yeah, we went over to Scott's house Friday and Saturday and we were playing Top Secret. People were like, what the hell are you talking about? Get away from me. But it was funny because Ellie and I will say this all the time. We lucked out, and some of our other friends lucked out because we didn't look like the kind of guys who would be playing D&D. Now, I'm not saying that we looked like, cool jocks or anything like that. We just looked like regular kids. We didn't have that like dorky look to us, but still, we were dorky. But I think this kind of circles back to the reason why I think theater of the mind is dying. And this is one of the reasons why I was telling my brother and my nephew and my nephew's girlfriend and Elliot's going to be part of it. I said, you know what? I'm just going to run Fantasy Grounds. I'm going to run D&D on Fantasy Grounds. I know somebody's head out there just exploded. I say it all the time. I don't hate Dungeons and Dragons. I don't hate Wizards of the Coast. The reason why is because I can share images and sound effects and stuff like that without having to worry about everybody getting together on a weekly basis. There you go. Thank you, W Forge. Behind Enemy Lines by FASA. That was it. That was it. J-Man says, Top Secret SI. No, it was just Top Secret. SI came later. That was back when Dragon Magazine, it was a TSR house organ, but they did review other companies' games and they weren't all like, oh, this sucks compared to Dungeons and Dragons. Ooh, you don't want that. Which did happen down the line. Call of Cthulhu. Seem to recall there was a gaming magazine, may not have been Dragon, that intensely disliked Call of Cthulhu when it came out. And I was like, and of course, remember, we got reviews like 6 months or more after a game came out. Once again, we've got it made now. A lot of stuff you get reviews of before it even goes out, or you get a review on release day when the embargo has been lifted. Now we had to sit there and be like, oh, it looks cool. I guess we'll buy it. And it was like, oh man, this is a steaming pile. And then 8 months later, you picked up like Shadis magazine. It's like, oh, hey, they say it's a steaming pile too. My wallet's crying. But I talked about this before, and I'm not trying to be negative towards some like younger people. I just don't think a lot of younger people have the same sort of imagination that we had growing. Now, when I say we, those of you out there who are like around my age or older, we needed to have to really enjoy our hobby. I can hear somebody give me kind of like a little bit of a breakdown of a role-playing game where, what the room has, right? Just some bullet points real quick. I can picture that. A lot of other people out there, they can't. And my nephew Cameron said that's something that he can't picture it because he doesn't have any reference. That's the big deal. There is no reference for it. So if, as an example, if you're somebody who's like 24 years old and you're looking at reading a science fiction book, everything that you're picturing is being filtered through things you've already seen. So as an example, my nephew, when we were playing the Pathfinder for Savage Worlds, he was picturing everything by way of Lord of the Rings, which that probably caused Gary Gygax to be spinning in his grave, but that's another story there. Peace Record says reading is fundamental for a DM. That's his opinion as an avid reader. Books are the fuel for all their games, regardless if they're running a published adventure. They give it the grimdark Dracolich. So they get the Dracolich treatment, the touch of death. I agree. I do. I agree. But, got to keep in mind, one of the reasons why we have such advancements in the virtual tabletops isn't necessarily because people can't get together. People can still get together. Now, maybe, not as often as, obviously, I can't as often as I did when I was a kid. And really not as often as I could when I was 30 years old. But I think a lot of the advancement that's taken place with virtual tabletops isn't because of COVID and people couldn't get together and game. That's part of it. But I think a good portion of it is to provide that visual stimuli, to provide the maybe audio stimulation for players. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. And the funny thing is, if you had talked to me 15 years ago, because I've never used miniatures in role-playing games. Once again, I always have to kind of use a disclaimer that the role-playing game that I have run the vast majority of my sessions is Call of Cthulhu. So Call of Cthulhu, you do paint Theater of the Mind all the time. And, you really didn't have miniatures of a Shoggoth. Like, yeah, here we go. Just take a big rock from outside, spray paint it like black and gray, do some highlights. There you go. Oop. But I would have said, no, even if, like when we had the different paper minis, we still have that. They look way better. They're pawns now. But we would have like the little fold paper miniatures you could make. I never used them. I'd have been like, nah, I do Theater of the Mind. Now, if I were running a role-playing game with people who aren't my age, yeah, I'm looking at different ways to utilize actual, additional visuals to keep them involved. That's why when I was running the Pathfinder for Savage Worlds, I was running Rise of the Rune Lords, and I had a tablet that I had the adventure on. I had another smaller tablet that I was using for images of NPCs and maps and all this other stuff. And I really needed every ounce of that for my nephew and his girlfriend. And it's no knock to them. I mean, they play video games and all the other stuff. They watch movies. They go check out every Marvel movie when it comes out. So it wasn't that. But I pretty much have an idea that they don't read much. And of course, not reading also does not provide you with the ability to see things with your mind as opposed to seeing things with your eyes. That's just, my thoughts on it. Like I said, I'm not saying that anything's bad or wrong or, oh, damn these kids. It's just how it is now. It's just how things are. So you adapt. You adapt for that. Let's see. Retired on a Bike said the family circle had a comic where the eldest kid told their mother, I think, that watching TV put the images in his mind, but reading, he created images in his mind. Yeah, that's it. That is exactly it. Give you a great example. One of my all-time favorite books, and then we're going to wrap up because we're hitting the 2-hour mark soon. One of my all-time favorite novels is The Stand. I already mentioned the book report, right? And I remember ABC did a mini series with Gary Sinise and Molly Ringwald, Jamie Sheridan. I mean, there were Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in it. And I remember it came out, and of course, yeah, I watched it the first night it premiered. And I remember, I think that now this would have been back in the day when it was just the beginning of the internet. So we had like bulletin boards and stuff like that. But I thought it was kind of funny because I remember stumbling across people talking about how, you know, Gary Sinise wasn't who people pictured when they thought of Stu Redman, the character of Stu Redman. And Molly Ringwald wasn't who they pictured with, I forget her character's name, Franny Smith. I know it's Franny. So anyway, so I had to laugh because I thought to myself, you know, because I hadn't really thought of this when I was watching it. I was just like, hey, it's really cool that we're getting an adaptation of The Stand. And people were like, yeah, you know, Stu Redman, I was thinking more like a, you know, kind of a Gary Cooper sort of personality. And, you know, I'm picturing Gary Cooper. And of course, this is what people had pictured in their heads when they were reading the book. So we still, even at that point in time, people were still processing things by way of other things they'd already seen. But still, yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny because nowadays, if you saw a movie, so let's say as an example, we'll use the Fantastic Four movie. And I'm not going to say Mr. Fantastic because, yes, I know a lot of people did not want Pascal Perez. What is his name? Is his last name's not Perez, is it? Maybe it is. I know. They didn't want him as Mr. Fantastic. But let's say, as an example, Sue Storm. I don't know the actress's name off the top of my head. I guarantee people went and saw that movie and they weren't like, oh, you know, Pedro Pascal. Thank you. I had all this useless junk rattling around in my head. I bet, you know, nobody came walking out of the theater going, man, you know, that's not how I pictured Sue Storm. That's certainly, that actress did not portray her the way it's like, no, not at all. Vanessa Kirby. W. Ford says the Stand TV series was okay. I enjoyed it. However, looking at it now, the Man in Black seems laughable. Well, plus, yeah, there are only certain things you're going to get away with on network TV. So there were some changes. You know, when they did the remake, not the movie, although the movie remake was okay. But when they did the remake, I'm trying to remember was that on TBS? I forget what it was on. The actual finale of it was pretty damn close to the book itself. Because the original ABC miniseries, the end that takes place in Vegas, you're not real sure what the hell just happened. Like, wait, what? Wait a second, huh? Whereas it's pretty damn clear. The other one they did. Now, having said that, there were other things that I thought were weaker in that second remake. But then, yeah, when they were like, oh, yeah, they're going to do a movie, you're like, what? They just remade the miniseries. Paramount Plus, that was it. Yeah, I knew it was on cable. So, anyway, but yeah, I think Theater of the Mind, if you're looking at, I would say also younger game masters as well. Game masters probably 30 and under probably don't do well with Theater of the Mind. I would think younger game masters probably do buy into the long read aloud as well. Probably more so than most older game masters out there. But once again, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just saying things are different. And if you want to play, you're going to need to adjust. So, and that's what I'm trying to do too. That's why I'm going to have everybody playing on Fantasy Grounds. We're still going to get together to play other stuff in person, but we're going to do, in fact, we're going to play Tomb of Annihilation. I gave Elliot the option. I told Elliot he could choose. So it was between Tomb of Annihilation and The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which I was hoping for. But we went with Tomb of Annihilation. So that's what we're going to be playing. All righty. So that's it for tonight's show. Tomorrow night, we're going to take a peek at Pirates of a Shattered World from the Polyhedral Knights. This is a pirate slash science fiction slash post-apocalyptic role-playing game. So this looks kind of cool. So I had an opportunity to chat with a couple of folks from the Polyhedral Knights over at Gamehole Con. So finally going to get to take a peek at this. I've got a couple of releases from the company. So we're going to dive on in and take a peek at that on tomorrow's show. All right. If you were watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, tip of the cap to you. Because not only were you keeping me company, you were also keeping each other company while I was going through the news and flipping on through the various booklets and such in the darkest dream. But of course, I know a lot of folks, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,300 videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. I really do appreciate it. Of course, everybody out there, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. If you're watching on mobile, hit that hype button. I don't know if it's available on this or not, but if it is, give it a little hype. Really does, as far as I understand, really does help spread the word to people who are not familiar with the outlet. But anyway, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you do subscribe, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my first look at a very civil whist, which is part of my Wargaming week that is going on. There was no Wargaming video today. There will be tomorrow and then Friday, Saturday. Might actually have a couple on Saturday. So I am doing my best to try to get as much coverage out there, even if it's just first looks. So people can jot down things for their wish list, maybe, or like a late holiday gift, last minute holiday gift, maybe. All right. Chris, 1973-2 was also with us tonight. Thank you very much. All right. Anyway, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great. The hell? All of a sudden, I saw a ladybug fly past. Like, the hell is a lady? That was weird. That caught. I was like, what the hell? So I'm not expecting anything to be alive down here. It's kind of nippy. Anyway, as always, I certainly hope each and every one of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.